live streamed on the ACRD website and archived on our YouTube page. And happy to do so. And of course recognize that I am here with Carrie in the Alberni Valley on the traditional territories of the Shot and Fetch people, and very grateful to do so. And most people that I see on the screen there are in Huayet land. So thank you for that. And yeah, happy to help lead the meeting along if we can get a volunteer to chair.
Just quick question, Alex. How many do we need for quorum? We have
6. Yeah,
okay.
we have 10 members.
2, 4, 5. I think we're good now. We've got Tom and JP joining. That
Yeah,
makes it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Bobs are not members, so
Oh, right, right. Yeah, I was counting Bob Smith there. Okay.
no worries. This be we'll have a good discussion for sure.
So do we need is it still it's still a formal meeting then
Yes,
in terms of following the agenda, but no motions. Is that correct?
exactly. That's correct. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
James, how do you feel about chairing this meeting for us?
Yep, I can do that.
That would be much appreciated.
Okay. John will owe me an Italian dinner when he gets back, I think. Okay, well, do a call to order. We've done some recognition of the territories. I myself and several other folks here are in the Hawaiian traditional territory. Just letting you guys know that the meeting is being recorded tonight. And I think the first step really is just to approve the agenda. So you should all have a copy of that. Basically, it's this section, approve the agenda, any declarations or conflict of interest, minutes, correspondence, the planning application for discussion, any late business, and then we'll adjourn. So can I get a motion to pass the agenda? Stella and seconded by Max. Okay, excellent. Um, are there any declarations or does anyone feel like they have a conflict of interest on this particular topic of the HFN proposal? No? Okay. And Alex, I'm assuming minutes here, this is just an approval of the last minutes, is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. So our next meeting will have the minutes from this meeting, and then the
Yeah.
APC will be adopting those minutes. So
Okay, sounds good. Um, okay, can I get a motion to approve the last minutes? Max and Stella. Okay, in reverse order. All right. Okay, do we have any correspondence to cover?
no correspondence, no, just the planning application on the
Okay.
agenda today.
Okay, moving right along. Okay, so this comes to the planning application, RA 25003. Should we be handing it over to our guest, to Adrian at this point,
I
Alex?
think I'd be happy to introduce it, and
Okay.
we could pass it on to Adrian for any comments. Or Adrian Mullen is here representing the Great Group of Businesses, and thank you for that, Adrian. And thank you, James. You are a natural chair, so that's a, a tough pair of shoes to fill in Bamfield, but you did a great job.
Thanks.
So yeah, so this one application we have before you is a rezoning application for uh, 2 parcels that are owned by HDB on Seaboard Road and Binnacle Road, fronting onto the Bamfield Inlet near Rance Island. The properties in question are about 5.3 acres in size combined, and what the applicants are looking to do is to develop a commercial campground on those sites with up to 40 fully serviced campsites, with preliminary plans for 32 sites accessed off the north side, off of the Seaboard Road side, and 8 sites accessed directly off of uh, Binnacle or the Bamfield Road, I guess. And the sites would be a mix of art RV sites and tent sites, and then there would be some amenity buildings that would be associated with that, including washroom and shower facilities, gazebo, fire pit areas, some garbage collection areas, and so on. The sites would be connected to Banfield Water, and they would be the sewage would be handled through a separate shared on-site wastewater disposal system. So the applicants have put a lot of work into the design phase of this, and they do have a report from a qualified environmental professional and a geotechnical engineer already that would aim to address the development permit area requirements for riparian area protection, for dealing with the natural hazards relating to tsunami risk and any seasonal flooding, and they are working with an engineer right now on the access into the site, and that would be confirmed through the referral to the Ministry of Transportation and Transit, and are also working on a final survey of the site as well. So I will let Adrian share that information with you. This application involves a amendment to the Bamfield Official Community Plan that the OCB right now designates that area as mixed use, which is a mix of small scale commercial and residential uses. The commercial campground is at a slightly larger scale than what would be contemplated, I guess, in the mixed use designation. So this would be amended to commercial, and as such, there would be a public hearing that would be held and associated with this one as well. The zone itself would be a site-specific zone that we would draft that would be specific to the densities asked for on this site. So it would max out the number of sites to 40, allow for one single family dwelling as the caretaker, allow for accessory buildings and uses, and then includes setbacks in there as well from the lot lines and from the waterfront. Number of conditions proposed for rezoning approval. I'll just kind of go through those one by one here. So the rezoning would be conditional on compliance with the flood construction level requirements and the recommendations from the geotechnical engineer. As I mentioned, that they have had the site assessed already, and we do have a report in hand there that confirms that the use of the property would be safe for the campground. We'd be looking for a confirmation of suitable public access to the site and a commercial access permit issued by the Ministry of Transportation and Transit. That would be through the referral process. We'll want to see a walkthrough from the Bamfield Fire Department to make sure that all egress and access to the site and any internal roads meet the requirements for emergency response and site evacuation if needed. We will be looking for an agreement to connect the campground to the community water system. So that will likely involve a water model analysis that would be conducted by an engineer at the applicant's cost to make sure that we have the capacity in that area to service the site, and if not, make recommendations on how to improve that. And then finally, we would be looking at the requirements for a registered on-site wastewater practitioner to come onto the site, make some recommendations on how to service these units with on-site septic, and I understand that they are working through that as well. Planning staff recommendation at this point is to move ahead with the public input process. So we would be looking at recommending first reading of this in January, and then a public hearing to be held in late February. Beyond that, maybe I'll pass over to you, Adrian, if you'd like to add any additional comments.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate the in-depth description, and yeah, additional comments are grateful to have everyone sharing their Thursday evening to talk through this, and then with any of the missing kind of conditions that are subject to, there's the MOTT. We're working with McElhaney Engineering to design the access and engineer drawings for utilities, and then they're also helping with the final site plan and utility servicing plan. So there's amendments to the site plan that will be finalized now that we have the topographical survey done, and then their input on utilities. And then the RWP sign off. So we have B4 Engineering doing the wastewater septic treatment system, and so that's in process as well. And then just like speaking to the kind of intention behind the entire development and being for a campground, preserving as much of the natural form and character of the property, doing retention of vegetation, and basically preserving as much of it in its current condition as possible for the environmental considerations, also just the aesthetic and the actual use as a campground, it's in support of all that. So that's very much in line with the design work being done. Yeah, I think that's all for additional comments for now, and open for talk through any piece of this, obviously.
Okay. Thanks, Adrian. I think, Max, you have a question? Go ahead. You're still on mute there, Max.
Yeah, question concerning C8D zoning. Is that going to be available to anybody with RA2 zoning current, or what is site specific?
So site specific mean it would be a separate zone listed in the zoning bylaw. So anybody could apply to rezone it to CAD, but this one would be designed specifically for this property, and mostly looking at maximizing out what the density is. The base C8 zone, which is our campground commercial zone, has no maximum. So it makes it difficult for us to regulate what the finished product of a campground would look like. So most of the campgrounds we see developed have a site-specific zone that looks at individual setbacks as well as a maximum number of sites.
Okay, so that just basically it just concerns density.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. Question for Adrian. Parking. Will proposed campsite property be required to provide parking on site for all of its customers and staff?
That's the intention. Yeah, there's in the plan, the parking for the 10 sites is going to be access to a non-drivable trail for some of them. And then up top as well, there's parking. So we've got a parking spot for each site is the plan right now. Yeah.
Vehicle parking, like even the walk-in ones are obviously going to drive into town, right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, so that parking has been set aside for all of those sites.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks, Adrian. Thanks, Max. Any other questions from the floor?
I have another one.
Hold on there, Max. Bob Schmidt, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Actually, I've got a few. First question is for Alex. Will this development be paying any development charges with respect to water, since they're going to be using, obviously water capacity and affect the timeline for expansion of the water treatment plant?
Yes, thank you. There is a development cost charge requirement that there's a special rate for commercial uses that they would be paying at the outset of the development. We'll have more information on that once we get the water model analysis back from the engineers on that. If there's any upgrades that are required to service the site, then those upgrades are deducted from the cost of the development cost charge, if that makes sense. I will say that it's anticipated that the water demand at this development will be fairly low, but yeah, we'll have the engineers confirm that, and then they would be needing to apply to connect it to the Bamfield water system anyway. So we'll have the final say over that.
Okay, thanks, Alex. Actually, I've got a few more comments, but I'll let Bob and Max go ahead first.
Okay, thanks, Bob. We'll come back to you. Go ahead, Mr. Beckett, and then we'll come to Max.
Thank you. A couple questions. Further to what Max asked regarding parking, to Adrian, does that include parking for boat trailers as well as vehicles?
Good question.
Negative to boat trailers. The parking allocations for just one vehicle per site right now. Yeah.
Okay. So I would flag that as a concern. Where are the trailers going to go for boats? And I know there's some commercial spots for them right now, which leads me to, let's just say for the heck of it that someone came down and with a boat and they decided to leave their trailer up at Paradise Parking. There's no trail from the top of the hill down. And is that something that HFN would, consider looking at so that there was safe, means of walking to that site? I'll stop there for a second.
Yeah, for sure. To address the boat trailer parking, this might need to be formalized into being a like supporting argument for this, but HDB having Ostrom's, having the airport, having other commercial spaces, there are parking options that are not on these properties, but others for boat trailer. But we're not thinking that trailers on these two properties in the rezoning application would be able to support trailer parking for each car. To reference the trail, there's already a design and a plan for an internal trail network from the upper to the lower portion of the properties. And then there actually has been, like, I was approached recently from the folks doing the regrading of the walking trail on the side of Bamfield Road and talking about whether there could be a public access trail through the whole property going from top to bottom. So that's a conversation, but I brought it up with Alex today to think about it as more of a concept at this stage, and then working it into the design if it's supported, and then the development permit supported at a later date. But that conversation has been started for sure. So right now, internal trail for sure, potentially a public trail depending on how that fits into the development.
And so I'll just finish up then at this point with respect to a trail extending the HFN trail at the top of the hill down, the public trail. It would be great if your plans could incorporate working with Ministry of Transportation to put the trail in and address no parking on that section of the Bamfield Road down to the four-way stop sign. And so thank you for that, Adrian. And then, sorry, James, Alex, do we now have quorum when I'm looking at the number?
Yes, we do. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for my time.
Okay, thanks very much, Bob. Go ahead, Max.
Question, Adrian, if you could expand on access. You have easement through Seaboard Road and then Hull Road. And Hull Road is not a road, it's an easement, currently an easement, is it not?
That's correct. So yeah, we've got Seaboard itself, the connector from Hull to the properties on Seaboard, that's MOTT maintained. The section from what's like August Guest House to Bamfield Road, that's the private easement. And we actually do, from the original like 1983 title, we've got an easement to access that property through the private portion of Hull Road. And we'd share that with Alex and his team as a part of the title search and such. So currently have an easement through the private portion of Hull. Yeah.
Okay, so the only access to basically the majority of the campground, the gas bar, what's intended to be a marina is going to be Hull Road?
Yeah, that's right.
That's going to be a very busy intersection.
Yeah, and that's a part of the MOTT work with the access, right? Is the design incorporating the like Bamfield all the way through to Seaboard connection, but don't have anything completed by McElhaney to show at this point. But the intention is to address the MOTT permitting side of it with the design.
Okay, what do you anticipate for, like, do you anticipate 40-foot motorhomes turning off Bamfield Road onto Hull Road?
So the majority of these sites are tent sites, so car camping tent sites. The upper portion, which is the 8 sites currently, those ones are more conducive to RVs. And so depending on what the access design is would tell us the size, but the idea is the RV sites are generally up top and there's 4 down below. So there'll be a limit probably with the size based on the engineered drawings that we come up with. Yeah.
Okay. Final question, and it's for Alex. Concerning wastewater, it's on-site wastewater. And I'm wondering if the wastewater, if the permit has to be granted before the permit has to be completed and granted before you can operate the campsite.
Yes, yeah. So what we'd be looking for at the rezoning stage would be the assessment from the wastewater professional to say we've been on site, we've identified an area, and we can install the system. And then at the development permit stage, which would follow rezoning, we would be looking to see the system designed and installed and operational before occupancy.
Okay, the reason I ask is on the previous one concerning the TUP, there was a note that said there's an existing on-site septic sewage disposal system approved by a required on-site wastewater practitioner in 2021, where the TUP was granted in 2018. So I don't know what, I was a little confused there about whether that all has to be complete before they start operating the campground.
Fair, yeah, it will have to be complete and installed before they have occupancy there. So, in this case, that would be, that's the angle we'll take. We'll take the planning at the rezoning stage and the confirmation that we can, and then if the rezoning proceeds, next step is development permit, and at that stage we'll make sure that it's installed and ready to go.
Okay, thank you. That's all I got.
Thanks,
Great.
Max.
Thanks, Max. Stella, and then we'll go back to Bob.
Yeah, firstly, I wanted to ask, is there even plans to have a boat launch there? Like, wouldn't the concerns about boat trailer traffic, wouldn't that be something that, like, is that really your concern? Is that fair to put on this development? Because somebody else asked that earlier.
Yeah, I mean, just from my perspective, no, there
Yeah.
wouldn't be a boat launch here, but I guess the thought would be that if it likely that we'll be campers that will be trailering boats down there and then launching them at the existing boat facilities. Yeah.
Yeah, and just to clarify, I think the concern, Stella, was just where those trailers going to go after the boats are launched, like where are they going to park?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
okay. Go ahead.
The second question I had was, is the caretakers there's planning for a caretaker dwelling? Like, would that cover employees that are expected to be necessary to run the site? Is that good enough? Because that's always a problem, is where do people that work at these places live?
I'll speak to the zoning piece where caretaker residences are attached to kind of like the C8 or kind of more general, but for this one specifically, yeah, the idea is an on-site manager, and then having RVs and campgrounds too, like camp hosts, etc., might be an option too, to have people actually use RVs for staff accommodation. But
that's not a great option, though. I have to say, considering this is supposed to be a development that's supposed to last, right? You don't really want to expect your employees to live in RVs.
That's right. It was more like the camp host concept, right? Like someone doing and then the caretaker's residence, manager, but also being attached to HEB's other properties down there. There's staff housing that's available outside of these two properties if needed as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Stella. Go ahead, Bob. Follow-up question.
Yeah. Thank you. For a question for Adrian, I don't know if I caught it or not. The timing of eventually the merge and being expanded at Ostrom's, where is that at relative to this campground in the timeline?
It'll be after. It is a different title and different zoning, and so there's a whole different process for that property. But the actual foreshore lease again is a separate application. So to put it as like kind of best guess, it would be within a couple years of this development going in, or this campground. So it's not going to be in line with it exactly. Yeah.
Now, will that include a boat launch as well?
I don't think there's any intention to put a boat launch there this time. But again, it's attached to another property, a different title, so it'd have to be looked at as a different site plan too.
Okay, because I think that's probably the main concern I have with this application. I don't have a concern with the change of use necessarily, but the potential impact on the rest of the community, starting with that's a very hazardous area down there from a Boat Hall Road to the four-way stop at Frigate, especially when MOT allows vehicles to be parked there. So there's going to be some issues and concerns about turning in and out of there. Secondly, as Bob Beckett mentioned, the last couple of years since the road's been upgraded, we've had a real issue with trucks and trailers, boat trailers being parked along roadways. And if there's going to be another 40 boats in the community, they're going to need a place to park. So I think that needs to be addressed. And then thirdly, moorage is an issue, common issue throughout the community, and grapplers pretty much at capacity, and having that sort of stress of more boats and trailers coming in on grappler is going to be, the grappler boat launch is going to be a problem as well. So I'm kind of concerned proceeding without addressing some of these problems in the community and what kind of impact, potentially 40 more trucks, trailers, and boats could have on the community.
Yeah, it's a good comment. Again, I don't know what the planning for like individual rezoning for this and then the responsibility for the other properties, because my immediate thought is like HGB and the HFN have other locations too that aren't attached to this 5 acres. So if there was a solution there, it won't be attached to this 5 acres, it would be attached to another property and worth considering as like a bigger conversation. But that might be maybe Alex has insight as to like how that could potentially be addressed within this application.
Yeah, I think there's benefit in knowing that HGB has access to other properties. Looking at how we regulate parking, this is a conversation that comes up with a lot of developments in Bamfield, that the zoning bylaw is limited in its ability to regulate parking. Even looking at a campground, we don't have any off-street parking requirements for the campground, regardless of boat trailers and larger RVs and things like that. So there is a gap there. It's a little difficult to address at the rezoning stage, other than helping to answer those questions with unique solutions like HGB offering trailer parking at the airport, for example, like you mentioned, Adrian.
Okay. You any follow-up, Bob, or are we ready to?
I'm good for now, thanks.
Okay. Okay, great. We'll go to Jane and back to Stella. Hi, Jane.
Yeah, hi, everybody. I have a concern about the Hull Road, Bamfield Road intersection. I personally have had probably half a dozen near misses with people coming down the hill. I'm exiting Bamfield safe in the 4-way stop. People coming down the hill at high speed, which seems to be just the laws of gravity. So signage would be an issue. Widening the road might be a solution. Adrian, are there any options for making access to your property at the top of the hill as opposed to Hull Road? And then the other thing is, what is the width of the access on Hull Road? Because I've also come down myself at a speed where I haven't been able to make the left turn onto Hull Road. What's the width? Is it 33 feet, 66 feet? Do you know what the easement is?
I can look it up in the plans that they have, but yeah, I don't know off the top of my head for the width, but unfortunately,
like that as a concern. And then if you were to come in through the top of the property, is it too steep to make that the access to your campground?
Yeah, so that unfortunately, like that, the topography is kind of crazy. Actually, it's super steep on that whole section on that BC Hydro right away. So the property is disconnected also by like a creek, which showed up in the environmental assessment that we have to address for the trail and pathway. But without like speaking too confidently, I can't really see a version where there's another access that isn't Hull Road. So I feel like that will be the design work to address the access through the MOTT and engineering piece. Like that's, if it's the only option, then it has to be addressed there. There isn't an upper one, unfortunately.
Okay, well, I'd address it as a safety issue.
Okay, thank you, Jane. Go ahead, Stella.
It's the wrong button. Here we go. Yeah, I've just been thinking about my previous question again, and I'm not really satisfied with your answer, because you have 32 campsites and then 8 RV sites, and you intend to have one caretaker place, and then possibly you're going to use one of the RV sites for residents for somebody that works on site also. I know that this probably isn't something that is part of normal planning, but considering how remote Bamfield is and how hard it is to keep employees, really it should be part of planning in Bamfield to consider accommodations, and also like nice accommodations, because we want to build the resources of people in the community that want to live here. If they living in an RV, they only want to stay 3 months and then get out because it's going to be so wet all winter. No one's going to be building community. And I think it's really important to think about long term, because like at the 7 generation thing, it's so important to the HFN perspective, and it's so important to the Bamfield perspective. So I really think that should be part of the planning. And also Bob's question about like timing and how the mortgage is going to work. I think it would be really great to know other plans for HGB building projects, so that you could how this works in concert to the other buildings. Like you say, oh, we have this other property, we could pull from that. But I would prefer a more firm, like, yes, definitely we're going to put this in. I really would love a trajectory of what you guys are going to be doing, because that would make just the idea of what's coming up is great. Thank you.
Okay.
James, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Stella. Those are great comments, and I think we can clarify some of those things in the staff report that and the applicant's proposal, where we can confirm up some of those ideas like parking off site. On the staff housing, I think what we could also look at doing, I mean, the zoning really creates opportunities for those. It doesn't necessarily compel them to build a caretaker home to look after the campground, but we do have another zone on the Surf Junction campground site out in Ucluelet that allows for staff housing in addition to a caretaker, and that's we worded it specifically to staff housing of that business or associated businesses. So we could look at something like that as well. That really creates the opportunity. That doesn't necessarily mean that it gets built today or tomorrow or a decade from now, but it allows the space for that to happen in the future. The aspects we would need to make sure are satisfied are the servicing. We make sure there's enough water and there's enough sewer and there's a spot to put it. But really, at the end of the day, it'd be up to the property owner to decide whether they wanted to pursue that.
Okay, great. Thanks, Stella. I have a couple of questions. I think I'll just jump in here. One question for you, Alex. I'm just wondering about the OCP amendment. Guess I'm just not clear on it. This is not just a simple rezoning application. Is this C8D? Is this a new zoning classification? I'm just wondering why we need to update the OCP for this type of application.
So the reason to update the OCP is that the rezoning that they're going for doesn't comply with what the current designation is. The current designation is mixed use, which allows for a range of smaller scale uses like cafe, restaurant, fishing charter business, and small lodge, but not a commercial campground. So when we're redesignating that to a commercial use, which allows for the full range of commercial uses we have in Bamfield, then that triggers the public hearing requirement. If this were a housing rezoning that complied with the OCP already, then there is no public hearing to be held. In this case, there would be. So the public engagement period would be the most fulsome one required as a part of a rezoning application. So advertised widely and held, like I said, likely in the first quarter of 2026 if this moves forward.
Okay, thank you. I have one more question for Adrian. So you guys you said you got the septic work in progress. I'm assuming that you basically are doing perk tests to see if you can handle the septic there.
Yeah, so it's an engineered design. So we've already had the designer out there and drawn it up basically, but don't have it paid for and sealed and applied to the property yet. So the perk test will happen at the next stage, but right now it's just engineered drawings. And then to, like Alex was speaking to, just to show that the site can handle that volume and and there's a location that's sufficient. And then perk tests will happen when prior to install and testing and at that stage.
A bit further down the road. So I'm just wondering, you guys are very close to the sewage line there, to the plant. Was there a reason why you didn't decide just to hook up to the sewage system rather than putting in a septic?
For sure, yeah, it's been a conversation because there's obviously multiple HGB properties, but it's just capacity at the plant. Like anything, there's a need for an expansion of that plant to basically add more than what's already been there to it, and so that's a conversation for the future. So we're looking at that as an opportunity when it becomes available to connect to the wastewater treatment plant. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thanks. We'll go to Bob and then to Max.
Thank you. I, I've already mentioned my concern about the parking of trailers, and as Alex has alluded to, and as Adrian, you've talked about, I'd be looking for something more formalized with respect to off-site parking of boat trailers. Getting back to moorage, and I'm glad Bob Schmidt brought that up because I hadn't thought about that impact. But I guess what I'd be looking for is some form of formal inventory of what's currently available at through the Bamfield Park, which is Grappler, how many slips are currently available there. The East Dock, which is HFN property, and Ostrom's. What's the inventory, and what does that look like during the peak season, June through September, with respect to available and empty slips, and what is anticipated with the 40 sites that you're looking at putting in? How many boats do you anticipate would be looking for moorage in the community? So, and I'm a little bit concerned with I think you said 2 years out, Adrian, for work on additional slips or moorage. But so I think there needs to be more of a robust look at what the inventory is in the community and the potential impact from this development with respect to the need for slips. Thank you.
Yeah, Bob, happy to just participate in that conversation as it evolves. Can share inventory, but the marina development component, that's actually held up with the province, right? That's a foreshore lease expansion that needs to be approved first. So the timelines on expanding those numbers are when I say 2 years, it's a guess based on approvals and then construction, but there's nothing formalized right now. But if this process does ask for it, we can chat about ways to provide information and formalize something in respect to anticipated boat volume for the 40 sites. I think it would just be based off the RV sites, and so that's kind of an easy starting point. But yeah, depending on what the committee / ACRD staff kind of recommends for next steps, I'll have those combos as they arise. So just keep me in the loop.
Okay.
One of the things that I think we will do just based on the discussion here is make the rezoning conditional on an agreement for offsite parking for boat trailers. I think that's an easy one. That can be dealt with similarly to how we've dealt with developments in West Bamfield, right? Where we make the approval conditional on confirming that there is an agreement to allow off-site parking, and in this case, it might be easier to seek that agreement with one of the other HDB properties or HFN properties for sure.
Okay, thanks, Adrian. Go ahead, Max.
We have a quorum now, don't we?
We do.
Can I make a motion that we include on-site parking for staff and customers under C8 zoning? It's not a campsite in the middle of the boonies somewhere beside a lake. It's in the middle of our community. And maybe some reassurance that it has the capacity to park the people who are using it would be advantageous to the community.
Okay. So your motion is to have a statement prepared
to include on-site parking for all staff and customers, or whatever you want to call them, included in the C8D zoning.
Okay. And do we have a seconder for that motion?
The whole town's headed the wrong way if that.
Go ahead, Stella. Okay.
I'm sorry, my dad has got comments in the background, but he's not even supposed to be part of this. But
Yeah.
I might be interrupting, so I'll let you finish what you're talking about, and I have a comment later.
Yeah, well, has a motion on the floor. We just need we need someone to second it. And then we can talk about it a little bit more. Go ahead, Jane. Are you seconding, or you are? Okay, great. So I guess my question would be, is this going to be like for Adrian? Is this going to be? Are we going to would this motion be adding something that you were already planning to put into your plan? Is that right? So this would be just basically a confirmation to say we definitely want this to be there.
Yeah, to confirm that that was the intention, was to have parking for all sites, and then the caretaker suite and staff.
Mhm.
The boat trailer thing, that can be like a conversation about offsite parking agreements, easy to talk through what that could look like. But yeah, intention was to have parking on site attached to the requirements of the campground. Yeah.
Okay. And Max, you just want to get that in writing now to make sure that happens, right?
Yes, please.
Okay. Well, is there any other commentary or questions before we go to a general vote on the motion? Okay, so all in favor of passing a motion to clearly articulate the parking requirements for staff on site? I'm good with that. So JP is 1, myself, Jane, that's 4, and Max. Yeah, so I think we're good. Oh, who jumps out of the woodwork to vote? Hey,
And then
Tom.
one last question for Adrian. There's a lot of talk about this marina component. Is the work that you're doing on Hull Road or asking for on Hull Road going to include that expanded use in a few years? Or are we going to go through this again?
Yeah, so the easement specifically it's kind of like an MOTT. They'll set the standard for the required like design, right? So we can include that in the conversation with McElhaney. And so it wasn't like in the initial proposal, but it can be included. But also, I think with the design work for what we're asking for, it's going to be a part of any adjustments that need to be made to the access. So can follow up on what that would look like, but can bring it up with McElhaney and see what they say. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Max. Go ahead, Stella.
I was wondering. Okay, so there's just to confirm, it's just 32 tent sites, right? And the 8 RV sites, and there's no potential for more RV sites in the future?
The number of sites here is attached to the topography. So it's basically just with the steepness of 200 Binnacle specifically, there's only, and the lower portion to 452, but there's just only so much space for the number of sites. And so that's what we've got for the design. What could happen is with now the topographical survey and the site plan going back to the engineers, it could tell us that we don't have the ability to put that many on, for an example, and it might get adjusted. But yeah, the intention is to, if the zoning says 40, it's obviously not more than 40, but the intention is to do all of the work for the number of sites up front and not plan to add more in the future, but it's going to be based on site design right off the bat, basically, is the decision maker for it.
Because I don't know if this is the right spot to say this, but Alex, I guess I'm going to ask you, Alex, about this. Because I'm concerned that East Bamfield is going to turn into a big parking lot, and we'll have a bunch of RVs you come into town, and that's because we have the Ponderosa already there. That other site that is supposed to be temporary, that's been there for 40 years, is like I'm just concerned about the optics of East Bamfield, and this is something probably our OCP should be protecting, but I don't even know if that's part of our OCP. And I don't know where this fits. I don't know if this is Adrian's responsibility. Like, I'm totally happy with the mixed use or with the commercial site being put in there, because that area should be commercial, because it's, it's great to have that potential for development, but I'm concerned that it becomes more parking and the east side becomes parking for Berkeley Sound, and it's better. It could be better than that. What are our protections for that, Alex?
Fair enough. Good good comments as well. So a couple things there. I mean, the use, if the uses change, it would allow up to 40 sites, right? And that is not necessarily, the zoning would be specific to campgrounds. That doesn't mean that there could be future uses on the site. I mean, a campground is a low impact use in this moment. So if they, a dozen years down the road, they have a different vision for the property, or a new property owner comes along and says, I'd like to build some housing or a different type of commercial use on this lot, that doesn't preclude them from applying to rezone in order to do so. So that ability is always there. I think from a aesthetics perspective, I'll also highlight the form and character development permit requirements. So this would be brought into this is within the form and character guidelines already, and that allows the regional district to regulate the look and feel of a commercial use on the property, and that will include screening and landscaping and buffering from Bamfield Road as well. So the entrance corridor into the community is of importance in those guidelines. It also will look at things like signage and site accesses and how all that looks, fencing if there's anything required there, and then landscaping throughout, as I mentioned. So there are some tools for the regional district to help regulate what the aesthetics of the final commercial use are, but then of course it nothing that would be done in this rezoning would mean that a future owner, or even if HDB came down the road in the future and had a different vision, that doesn't mean they would not be able to apply to do that.
Okay. Thanks, Stella. Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you. Alex, you started to address one of the concerns that I have, and when it comes to form and character and aesthetics, I don't know, I don't know how to say this, Adrian, but this isn't somewhat in the center of town. It's just off the water. How do we know it's going to be a really good looking campsite RV place, as opposed to just brushing some area aside, putting some gravel in and calling it a day? Like, where do I get the comfort that this is going to be a first class, very attractive looking facility? That's number one. And number two is, when I look at, and I'm sorry, on page 13 of 16, and it shows the Ponderosa area, is that part of the development? Because I thought the Ponderosa was owned by somebody else. So those are my two questions / comments.
The Ponderosa, that's not owned by HGB. So it's not a part of this application, and it's also, they're half owners of that easement on Hull Road there as well. But yeah, I would look to Alex to maybe talk through like the form and characters and like what's in there right now, and then what sort of kind of measures the ACRD generally puts in place for the aesthetic or like the management piece. But that site does have it's second growth, but it's got some nice cedar on throughout the property and a couple little creeks, and honestly the retention of the riparian, but also just like the vegetation is actually conducive to the success of it as a campground. Like, that piece stands out to me as just being happy to talk through the formal parts of that conversation, but as a philosophy attached to what the product is, it's going to be retaining as much as it possibly can for natural form, right? And there is some heritage trees that we like from that were planted, for example, that we're going to retain. Like, we're going to limit any sort of vegetation clearing. Luckily, the RV locations have all been previously cleared in the last 30 years. So down near the water, but also at the upper portion of the property, that's where there's been previous development. So we're not actually like changing the form of that. Like, yeah, there can be landscaping conversations for how it looks post-construction, but we're not changing the site for any of the RV locations based on what it hasn't already been used for. There's as I'm sure everyone knows, it's been down there. There's the foundation of the old Bay House and stone walls and cleared gravel right up to the edge of the property line on the lower, and then the upper was 2 roadways and a couple of building sites. So yeah, I would like beyond that, I would just look to Alex to talk through what the process is of the ACRD and retaining form and character and adding that into planning.
Yeah, for sure. So that, I mean, that is the tool that the ACRD has to regulate the look and feel of it. You know, as part of the development permit, we'd be looking for a landscape plan for starters that would look at both buffering and screening from the road, from the water, where appropriate, landscaping, you know, to reestablish things, whether that's in the riparian area or whether that's around existing campsites. We can look at things like the size of the individual campsites and meeting certain guidelines there. Setbacks between them is another thing that we could look at in the development permit. Access roads, signage from the road, you know, the actual form and character of the buildings themselves. So like the wash houses and the commercial amenity buildings, we would be looking at an elevation drawing that would give us the level of comfort that is built in a way that meets the aesthetic of the Bamfield community as you know, as outlined in the OCP. You know, the difficulty with that is that, you know, that's issued at the outset of the development, and then the development evolves over time, right? So, you know, that is an enforcement issue for the regional district to really ensure that those guidelines are implemented, and you know, that's on the staff and the board to see that through. We've had that in the past, but certainly, you know, we would not be supporting any development of the site until the applicants provided a detailed enough plan that gives us a level of comfort of what we think it'll look like.
Okay. Thank you. Stella, I wasn't sure if is that an old hand that's up or is that a new hand?
No, I'm gonna ask. I know I just asked this question. Like we just went through this, and I really appreciate your guys' answer to this. Thank you. But I just looked at the map again that you guys sent in the package, and I counted 14 RV sites. So why? I don't understand that incongruity. What's going on there? Is that map wrong or?
The map's wrong because of after the topographical survey and defining the front lines, there was the loss of some of the sites that before it was surveyed, there was an assumption that there was more space there, so they've been removed.
Okay, so which ones are being retained? Is it the RV sites along the water that are being retained, or the ones up on the hill that are being retained?
And so now with the new design, it'll be a couple between 2 and 6 along the water, and then all the ones up top. So it's unknown. This site plan, the concept site plan, now needs to be adjusted because of the topographical. So there will be an adjustment to the design based on the survey work. Yeah.
Ah, okay. Thank you.
So what this is.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Bob.
Thank you. Under fire protection, you know, you've got a couple comments in there, but I guess I'm concerned about water supply for fire hydrants, given the topography and the wildland interface risk. You know, I'm wondering if water supply and hydrants are being considered in this project. Thank you.
Hydrants on site and standpipes. Can pass that to Alex. It hasn't been considered as like where the locations are, but that's a part of the utilities work that McElhaney is currently doing, and happy to hear what the ACRD's requirements are for it.
Yeah, that's so the water model analysis would look at the fire flows that would be required, and then we'd be looking at the engineers that are providing the water model analysis will give some recommendations there, and then we'll also be including the fire department as part of a referral agency, and we'll want to have some good engagement with the fire department and our fire staff here and our building staff to make sure that the site, as it's developed, has those whether it's a hydrant or a dry hydrant that they hook up or something like that would satisfy the requirements of the fire department. The other thing we want the fire department to look at is the access in and out of the site, right? So we want to make sure that the internal roads, which we have less ability to regulate in zoning, that those roads are built at the width that's required, and they have the turnarounds, and that the fire trucks are able to get in and out of there. And obviously that the big RVs are able to get in and out of there in the event of an evacuation. The last thing I will note on the wildfire interface is that the development permit guidelines for former character also speak to that, where we're able to support things that are associated with the building, like hardy board siding and metal roofing that can reduce that risk, and then also some fire smart principles can be introduced there, so that if there is a fire, it's less likely to spread into this property.
Great. Hey, thanks, Alex. Just a quick question, Adrian. We're assuming in all of this that there's going to be fire pits at each one of both the tent sites and RV sites. Is that part of the plan?
It would be the intention. Yeah, like obviously we have the same conversations out with Pachina Bay Campground on whether to follow kind of provincial guidelines or make up our own. But the idea is that there would be fire pits, but there'd be the kind of provincial guidelines plus for burning and switching to propane, et cetera. So there's internal management plans you can have in place to mitigate it, but the idea is to have fire pits as an option for when it's safe. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. All right. Any more questions or comments? I just have a question for Alex. So Alex, I'm just wondering in terms of process, this is essentially a preliminary review of this proposal, right? So the next step, do you see another APC meeting before? You said something about there's one late February, and then is that for the public or the public hearing in January? So I'm just looking at next steps.
Sure. Yeah, I think we've heard a lot of feedback here tonight, and that'll help us finalize the bylaws, which will be drafted. That actual C8D bylaw and then the amendment bylaws will be drafted ahead of the board. I think there's aspects to expand upon in the staff report based on everything that we've heard here today, and then some more discussion to be had with Adrian. So the timeline that we were anticipating was to take this to the ACRD board in the first meeting in January on January 14th. If we do that, the board proceeds with first reading, as the if we can incorporate all the comments that we've received here today, then we can move ahead to a public hearing at the end of February. Alternatively, what we could do is we could beef up the staff report based on these comments, finalize the zoning bylaw, and then come back to this committee in January to have another discussion on that before we go back to the board.
And how many readings does the board, the ACRD board, do two readings before it's finalized? Is that right?
The ACRD board sees it 3 times. So they give it first reading, then we hold public hearing, second and third readings at another meeting, and then adoption of the final.
Okay. Well, it looks like we've covered it fairly thoroughly for a preliminary review. Max, you have another question? Comment?
Yeah, just a last question to Adrian. Will the McElhinney work for the roadways and all the on-site septic, all that, will that all be prepared in time for the next APC meeting should it come this way? When do you anticipate that all being done?
Yeah, that's a good question. The design work should be completed. The permitting would not be. So the permitting goes back to the MOTT, but the engineered work, they've been engaged on it for the last month, and it should be there for mid-January kind of thing. So I would say yes to the design, but not to the approval.
Okay, so that information will be available to us before that meeting then?
As soon as it comes my way, it'll be shared with the ACRD in the same package, and being early December, I would assume it's a month from now that we'll get that into the package. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If there aren't any further questions or comments, we'll move on to our last main order of business, which is late business. I don't know, is that just an opportunity for someone to bring up an additional topic, Alex? Do we have anything for late business?
We would, but I just want to circle back here and get some direction from the APC on the application here as well. So if looking for a motion to either you know defer the application until January so that we can address the questions that have been received, or to request that we move ahead with the board in January. So just looking to kind of formalize that from the scoop, I think would help me, but it would also help Director Beckett as well.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion from the floor? Go ahead, Bob. You want to make a motion, Bob?
No, I can't make a motion. But James, I just want to reiterate what Alex said. My preference would be to clarify as much as we possibly can before I speak to it at the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we get more of this stuff. We get more of the proposal issues and questions sorted out. I think it just seems to me premature to go to the board. I'd rather get a lot of this stuff tied up and clarified, and not waste the board's time really. If we have a lot of moving pieces here, a lot of things were brought up. So I'll make a motion to say that we will defer this going to the board until the APC has had another round at looking at flushing out some of the issues that were brought up today. It's a long motion. Sorry, Carrie. So that's the motion. Any seconders for that motion? Okay, so second, okay, all in favor? Okay, so it's myself, Max, Stella, Tom, and JP, and all opposed. Jane, you're not okay. That was a leftover hand from the approval. Okay, so we had a majority there. So it looks like we're just going to wait and get some more of these issues kind of sorted out and clarified before it goes to the board and public hearing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can work on that, and then we'll work with Adrian to. It'd be nice to come back with the engineered access drawings as well, and or some information on there. So we'll try to arrange something in January.
Okay, excellent. Okay, do we have any late business? That late business is usually just stuff that someone wants to table before the meeting adjourns.
See, Stella has a hand up.
Okay, go ahead, Stella.
I just wanted to ask Adrian, is any of this going to be at the presentation tomorrow at the House of Hawaiian for tourist development for Hawaiian?
Two separate projects. So the HFN government's putting on a public engagement piece to talk about MRDT and Indigenous-led DMO development. It's a destination management organization, so totally separate from this work. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, great. Adrian, I had actually a question as well. Just looking at the broader scope, I know the HFN has a large framework plan for the next 20 or 30 years, and I know that I think across the way there is Rance Island is across from the campsite location. I'm just wondering, in your working on this project, is this fitting in as part? Was this part of the overall framework plan, or is this more like of an kind of an addendum, in more of a ad hoc kind of project?
It would be a separate project that's in term, like he's kind of mentioned, the framework plans looking at 30-year timelines. So any sort of, and it's kind of like a land use planning document more than like a development plan. So those are conceptual for what could go, and the size of the development that is kind of in that framework plan would be costly enough that it's not in the near future. So this is definitely not ad hoc, but separate from.
Yes.
And then there's no, as far as I know, there's no other planning around Rance Island separately from the bigger plan right now. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. All right. So it doesn't look like we have any other late business. Go ahead, Max.
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Anyone want to second the motion? Okay, thanks, Stella. I don't think we need a full vote, do we, for adjourning on your ACRD meetings? No? Okay, so that's good. We're good to adjourn. Thanks, everybody. Good conversation. Thanks, Adrian, for bringing the proposal to us. Interesting and exciting, but also raising some concerns, obviously.
Yeah, thank you all. I appreciate your time and engagement.
Really appreciate
Excellent.
your time, everybody. Thank you. And thank you, James.